Welcome to the Reynolds Direction. This is going to be a very special episode as I am riding solo for this one. This will be my final episode of the podcast for a while because I am actually leaving the concierge position to hike the Appalachian Trail for 6 months. My plan afterwards, after I hopefully complete the trail, is to come back and rejoin the team as a real estate agent. So I wanted to take today to talk about my journey in this position, my time passing the real estate exam, and what the future holds for me and the podcast. So I started studying for the real estate exam back in November. I had originally signed up for my course, went through all of the mandatory fingerprinting and the background check, and I ended up passing my test about the end of January. So from cracking open a book to getting officially licensed as a real estate agent took me about 3 months or so in order to fully complete it. And I wanted to talk about what I did during that time to set me up to better succeed when it came time to taking the actual test, and so that I wasn't lingering on any of the material or studying for too long. Because it is one of those big initial hurdles that you have, and that you have to get licensed in order to practice being a realtor. You have to pass this test, or you also have to pass your course test as well, in order to make that first initial leap into this new career. So because I had been in the concierge position for about a year, there was thankfully a lot of the material on the test that I was already pretty familiar with. A lot of the things regarding financing, different kinds of titles, how the under contract process works, how you list a home, all of these broad topics that are covered in different ways on the exam, I had already had some hands-on experience with due to me being in this job for the past year. So that really helped out in terms of the way I studied, and I really do believe that I was able to have a lot more success in my study plan, knowing that I had had all this experience going into taking the test. So in taking the course I took was with a school well known in Florida for specifically prepping for the Florida real estate license exam. And this is very important in that regardless of whatever state you're looking to get licensed to practice real estate in, you want to make sure that your prep course is specifically geared towards the state that you're trying to be licensed in. So for me, because I'm trying to be a realtor in Florida, I took a Florida real estate license prep course. Because there are going to be some subtle differences in terms of the different laws that you have to keep in mind, the different practices, and a lot of the different housing components that go into it. Like, for example, Florida is going to be a very different kind of real estate market, and there are going to be different aspects to real estate that you need to consider as opposed to looking in, say, Tennessee or North Carolina. Because with Florida, there's more of an emphasis on how does my real estate hold up in the event of a potential hurricane, or how does it hold up being on the beach, on the water. There are all these different geographical and location-based aspects to the practice of real estate, and that's why there are all these subtle differences in how you go about getting certified and what you need to know when you become a realtor in any given state. So specifically prepping for Florida's real estate license course, you go over a lot of the very specific elements that pertain to home ownership in Florida. Now, I was pretty diligent about the course. I would say I probably knocked out about a chapter or two every other day just to make sure that the material was fresh in my mind, that I was consistently going over it, and that I was giving myself enough time to mentally absorb all the information I needed to pass the exam. And the biggest one, probably the biggest hurdle before you take the actual real estate license course that the state makes you take, you have to pass the actual end of course exam that you take after you've done all the course material. Because for that one, there might be some schools that do it a little differently. But the first go around, if you don't pass the course exam the first time, you become eligible to take a second version of it, but you're locked out of taking it for about a month. So the biggest mental hurdle is trying to pass that exam the first time around so that then you can just immediately move on to taking the state licensing course, or not the state licensing course, the state license exam. Because the state license exam you can typically take almost an unlimited number of times until you pass. And I actually took my exam and it was proctored online. So you can elect to take it in a classroom. You can take your course prep in a classroom as well, or there are a lot of different options for taking it online. For me personally, I did the entire process online. It was worry-free for the most part. I mean, I never really felt at any given point that I didn't have the right resources or materials or guidance to walk me through starting the course, getting through it, finishing it, taking the exam to get my license. They really do a lot of these courses do a great job of really kind of teeing up all the different things that you'll need to do in order to make sure that you're fully prepped walking in on exam day. And so I really felt like I got a lot of the assurances for taking the exam from how well laid out my prep course was. So I took the exam for the first time, I want to say, about halfway 3 weeks into January. I did not pass the first time, which is okay, because you can take it basically, again, an unlimited amount of times until you pass it. So I walked away from the first one, did not pass, didn't even know what my score was at the time. So I just kind of took a week to restudy, really kind of go over what I thought I got wrong on the first try, to then tackle it again on the second time around, and I passed the exam. So overall, there are a few general tips I can give you, and really a lot of this is general studying advice that's good for studying for any type of course or exam that you have. Number one, do not procrastinate on it. There are going to be times where the material feels like a lot, and you might feel like you get into a lull of studying. I want to encourage you to be of the mindset that when that happens, you just immediately bring yourself back to, okay, I have to focus on getting through this next piece of material, or this next chapter, or this next quiz. And this is the one baby step I have in front of me to continue going down the path that I need to go. But the problem is that if you procrastinate and you say you put off doing a chapter or a quiz here and there, your mind's going to get into the position of, oh, I really don't want to engage with the material all that much. I just kind of want to forget it and let it drain out of my system. And if you do that, you end up forgetting a lot of the things that you need to retain in order to make this process as efficient as it can be, to where you can pass the exam on the first time and not have to spend several months engaging with the material. And that way you can also hit the ground running a lot quicker. So don't procrastinate. Number two, be diligent in your note-taking. There is a lot of material that's thrown at you as far as the dynamics of real estate, the dynamics of any given transaction, and there's a lot of important things that you need to keep in mind that do come from the course leading up to getting your license. So I would encourage you to, you don't have to take notes on everything, but take notes on all of the big highlighted points that your course instructor points out to you while you are taking the class. Plus, that will also help in jogging your memory, not just for the exam, but also as you begin to practice real estate, you will be able to look at information that you gathered from the course to sort of contextualize for you how your first real estate transaction will play out. It's very helpful for you in that regard to be diligent in taking notes. The third piece of advice I would give is take it one step at a time. My course in total had about 19 or 20 chapters, and a lot of them were pretty bulky, and a lot of them had a ton of information in them that you can't just take all in one sitting. Like there was one chapter specifically on financing that took me several days to get through because there was that much information. And the course is set up in a way to where it's going to make you sit and focus on some of the more important aspects of real estate so that you do take the time to familiarize with self with a lot of the more important aspects of the transaction, which is going to be where's the money coming from? Where's the financing coming from? How do I factor all of that in when writing up contracts or showing clients homes? Or just setting up everything when you're under contract to where you're not going to have these major hiccups along the road. And the course is going to make you sit with material like that for a lot longer than it's going to have you sit with some other parts of the course. And my advice to you is when you get to chapters that seem to be bulky, just take it one piece of material at a time, one bit of information at a time. This is not a race, it's a marathon. You don't need to feel like you need to speed through every single part of the course. It is totally fine and it is totally natural to just take it as one step at a time so you're not trying to overload yourself with too much information all at once. And really, that's kind of my overall advice for taking the exam. I mean, it was definitely a very interesting learning experience for me, having been in this job for so long, in that I was really kind of able to officially review everything I had learned being a concierge and kind of being in the background for all the agents. So it was very, very helpful and very, very insightful to take the license course and exam when I did, because it really helped me review a lot of the information I had learned over the past year in this job with the Reynolds team. So transitioning off of the exam, I want to talk about my future plans as a realtor. So I've had this crazy idea for the past several years that I wanted to hike the entirety of the Appalachian Trail, starting in Springer Mountain, Georgia, and finishing in Mount Katahdin in Maine. The entire trail is somewhere around 2,200 miles. It crosses 14 states, and I plan on hiking the entirety of it from start to finish, starting from the southern terminus and finishing up in Maine. The entire journey will take me about 5 to 6 months, give or take. And there are a lot of different reasons why I'm doing this and why I'm doing it now. I was actually originally planning on hiking the Appalachian Trail when I graduated from college back in 2020. But as with most other things in a lot of other people's lives, my life changed and plans changed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I ended up pushing off the hike year after year, and just kind of as my career took off and I really started to take an interest into real estate, I figured that I could make the transition from being an assistant, being in the concierge position, to getting licensed and then fitting in the hike right before I come back and really start to get into the swing of things with being an agent full-time on the team. So this is sort of my transition into being an assistant on the team and learning and being in the background of everyone's business to me getting my license and me fitting in this bucket list item before I come back and hopefully start selling houses. It's a big time. It's a very big time in my life, and I'm very excited for it. I'm very nervous about it. Everyone's asking me all these questions like, do you have this? Do you have that? And all sorts of things, but I'm very excited for it, and it's going to be a very fun journey. It will definitely be all over social media, so stay tuned for posts from the team and myself regarding that. I will definitely be documenting a good bit of the journey along the way. And the other thing I think about is I kind of just want to talk about the year in review of being a real estate assistant and being a concierge, because this is my last day in the office, Friday, February 25th, and I believe I started as a concierge last year sometime around late March. So I'm coming up on being with the team for basically about a year now. And it has definitely been a very interesting year for real estate. Very, very interesting year. Because basically right before I joined, what all the agents and brokers have told me that have been in the business for a while is this past year has been unlike any other year in real estate that anyone has seen, probably for the past few decades, where you've had multiple offer situations on homes going for north of a year now, where you've had inventory that has lasted for less than a month's shelf life, whereas it used to be around half a year to a year for a lot of different price points before all this hysteria began. And I mean, you have houses flying off the market within a matter of hours these days. And it's still going on, and it's still going strong about a year into this massive seller's market. And there is a lot of different conversation on how all of this started. Is all of this going to continue? What does the shape of the market look like in, say, a month, 2 months, a quarter from now, a year from now? Will it all be the same? Will it slow down? Is there potential for a buyer's market at some point in the near future? And to all those different questions, I'd say a lot of it is still very up in the air, and a lot of it's still going to be driven by the market demand. And right now there's a ton of buyer demand for homes in this market in Florida. And I think it was just recently that a transition happened where the most expensive real estate market is no longer New York City. It's now Miami, Florida. And I would say that that point alone is pretty symbolic of the overall trend that we've seen in real estate over the past year, especially for this state. Florida real estate is incredibly popular right now. And I believe this is one of, if not the states that has seen the most traction and movement of people to it during the past 2 years. So you're in a market right now where there's a ton of growth going on. Everyone wants their piece of the pie. Everyone wants to come down to Florida, and everyone's trying to either get out of other states, or they're taking a lot of their financial profits they've seen in the markets the past 2 years to where they've realized that they can finally retire and come down and get that beachside condo that they've always been dreaming of. There are a lot of different life stories, and there are a lot of different life paths that people have taken that has kind of led to this collective moment where you have this seller's market where houses are flying off the shelves left and right. But when I came in March of last year, it was all of the same hustle and bustle. Houses go on the market, they're off the market the next day. You have houses that get 30, 40 showings over the course of just a few weeks. A lot of interest involved. So there are a lot of different elements at play in all of this. And it's been really, really interesting to see it all up close and kind of help the agents manage a lot of the craziness that has gone on in the past year. Because the other big thing that I've had to keep in mind is that, listings are the name of the game right now. If you're a seller right now, you have the advantage. But as a buyer, it's a lot more difficult because you could be looking at properties that are not going to be on the market for longer than 7 days. You might just choose 1 or 2 times to come visit the area that you're looking to move in. And so I think especially as a buyer right now, and especially if you haven't purchased or sold a home in the past, say, 5 to 10 years, it's a lot more difficult to really kind of contextualize just how quickly everything is moving right now. Because buying a home is a very important and a very big decision for a lot of people. But when you bring those people into a meeting and you say, with the way the market's looking right now, it would be best to, when you see something move quickly and go ahead and get under contract, it's very hard to emotionally grasp that when you've always been in a market where the shelf life lasted a lot longer, people weren't just nabbing up houses left and right, and you had a lot more time to really kind of ruminate on it and think over your decision. But right now, you really don't have a lot of time to think. You really don't even have a lot of time to process really kind of the beginning stages of searching, because now so much of the emphasis is on getting under contract, getting an offer in, and making sure that you can at least have some sort of dog in the fight. So it's been a very intense year because of all those different factors. And it's been especially interesting to me to be able to be in the background of going to listings, showing houses for the agents, kind of seeing the conversations that buyers agents will have with their clients, especially if they kind of know that a house is not going to last on the market for a long period of time. It's a educational point in and of itself to just kind of observe the interactions that agents have with their clients, especially in a market that's as crazy as this one. And I think that alone has been very beneficial to see before I became an agent myself. Because, at the end of the day, you can know everything about title policy, mortgages, square footage of a home, its construction, but the biggest thing that you need as a realtor is the ability to connect with people. There are a lot of realtors in this business who will tell you that a lot of the times, as far as the general scope of the business, a lot of the times it's not even about the house. It's about how you connect with other people. Can you understand people's struggles? Can you get an idea of what they're looking for? Can you be a good guide and a good resource for people who are looking to make one of the biggest decisions that they'll make in their life, and that is where they want to live, for how long, and if it's truly the right decision for them, and where all the money is going to go in that decision-making process. It's a big deal. And it's something that's hard to really kind of contextualize when you're just starting out in the business and you've never had to work with clients before. You haven't had to deal with back and forth communication on transactional issues. You've never had to really kind of get in the mindset of a buyer who's going back and forth between several different properties, or get in the mindset of a seller who is, making a very vulnerable move of putting their real estate on the market for everyone else to see and for total strangers to pick apart and see, is this the house that they want to move into? But I feel like this past year of being able to be in situations where I can observe that communication and that line of thinking, it has really helped give me, I would say, an advantage over other agents who are just starting out that don't have that, or don't have the opportunity to have that initial experience. It's been very beneficial in that regard. And you learn a lot. You learn a lot about people and what people truly want, how people think, how they act, and just kind of like you really start to get a full grasp of, how someone goes about making one of the biggest decisions of their life. And one of the biggest lessons I've taken away from helping the agents and helping communicate and better serve their clients is you have to be patient. Number one, you have to be patient. You have to be willing to listen fully, and you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be resilient. You have to be forward thinking and motivated to find the exact solution that your clients are looking for. And there is one out there, even in a market like this, especially for buyers trying to navigate it right now. But it's all about being able to connect with people fully. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I really like about the Reynolds team. There's a very big emphasis on helping people better understand what their exact issues are and how we can solve them in the best way. Because in any real estate transaction, emotions are going to be running high. You're going to be having to make a bunch of different small and big moves on a day-to-day basis. But it's all about just looking at the bigger picture of what's going on and being able to really listen out for what's stressing out your clients, what they're looking for, and how you can best serve them. And at the end of the day, if you're capable of doing that, you will find success in this business. And you will be able to make connections with your clients and with people buying and selling homes that you didn't think were possible. And you'll be able to feel, in a way, I would say, more rooted in your community that really no other job is able to do. Because in a way, you are sort of the tour guide and the initial advisor for your town. You become a tour guide. You are starting to show people around the town, show people homes, and you get to have a say, and you get to at least play some sort of role in helping them decide if they want to be a new member of this community, if they want to move to Vero Beach, Florida and call it their home. And you also get to help out people who are moving out of Vero Beach and maybe moving on to another chapter in their life. And you're trying to help them resolve this one big final thing, an asset that they have that is tied to this community that they could have been a part of for several years of their life, for several decades for a lot of people. So it's a very big job and a very big role that realtors play in people's lives in either part of the transaction. And I think that that's something that, the more and more I talk to people on the team, the more and more I realize how much really good realtors who really care about their clients take pride in things like that. And I think that's really important. Because at the end of the day, any brokerage can throw up how much they do in sales, what kind of technology they have, how big their brand is, and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not able to connect with your clients, and you're not able to call them friends at the end of the day for a lot of them, and build up your own little circle and your own little community, then I just don't see the business as being worth it. Because that's what it's all about. Connecting with other people. Being that guide of Vero Beach, Florida. Showing people what their home could look like. And being able to see how people's minds run and how they make that decision. That's what it's all about. Serving your people. Better serving your clients. And I think that's why I'm really, 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 really excited to come back on and join the Reynolds team as an agent. Because I grew up here in Vero Beach. I grew up reading all the different articles about real estate, hearing about all the big brands and the big players. And there are a lot of very respectable people in this business in Vero Beach, which is another thing I like. There are a lot of people and there are a lot of mentors in real estate, in this market, who are great people to get advice from, who are great people to have teach you and mentor you. But there is something different about the Reynolds team. And that is that everyone truly is a part of a family. When you come and you work here, you're not just any other agent. You're not just any other staff member. You're a part of something bigger than you. And the part that's bigger than you is the team. Because everyone will always have their individual transactions. Everyone will always have their individual business going on. But at the end of the day, if you need help with anything, if you need advice on something, if you need assistance with a contract, not only do you have staff members there to assist you, you also have your other realtors on the team who have got your back and want to look out for you just as much as they hope that you will look out for them at the end of the day. And that's what it's all about. A healthy environment like that, regardless of where you work, is always, always, always worth sticking around in. I originally wanted to be an attorney. I originally was just going to do this job for a year, and then I would take the LSAT, go off to law school, and just chalk this up to being another bullet point on my resume. But after a while of getting to know the business and getting to know the team and seeing the favorable dynamic that Scott Reynolds and that a lot of the other realtors have been on the team for a while, seeing the culture that they've created, it made me realize that the grass isn't greener on the other side. And that something in my gut was telling me that this is where I want to stay. So with that being said, I'm going to go off in the woods and I'm going to lose myself for a bit. But I have a very good feeling that I will find my home right back here on the Reynolds team. So with that, thank you all for tuning in to the Reynolds Direction. It has been a fun year being on the team. There have been a lot of lessons learned. I've had a ton of great guests come on the podcast, and I want to thank all of you for making it into what it is today. There have been a lot of very educational, insightful episodes that we've done on the show, and I've personally learned a lot from all of them. So thank you. And with that, I'm Trevor Murrah. This is the Reynolds Direction, and signing off until further notice. Take care, y'all.